everybody. It's Mike Levin, Wednesday, July 27th, 2016, at about 11. And today I thought I'd do a quick little tutorial on both the request object and the regular expression matching object in Python before I get to the video that is about the next step in evolution of SEO Notebook, because it's going to be using these two things in building the function I need to show, returning output to be updated back into this spreadsheet. So without further ado, I will import requests and RE. And I'm using this slightly different format now in order to do these tutorials because I do some work ahead of time, and I used to keep it in a different tab, but it occurred to me if I just send this down by one, it brings up the next thing without you having seen it ahead of time. So I thought I'd answer some of those mysterious Python things that beginners wonder, which is really easy to show in this Jupyter Notebook environment. Once you've imported something, what's there? Well, it turns out you could just print out the name of the thing you imported itself. Whoops. Adapting from PC keyboard to Mac keyboard. Copy and paste is different. One of the ridiculous things about the state of tech. And so you have the information, which is really defined inside of the request object, how calling it is actually going to show you this pointy bracket notation, and the developer of the module gets to decide what it's going to show you here. And one of the things, it's interesting but not very useful about what you can do with that module. But typing the keyword help around a package is very useful. It gives you the API. And you can see here that the way it's intended to be used is you set some arbitrary name equal to request.get method and then a URL. And that's the most simple way you can use this package. It shows you the API, shows you some of the contents of the package, and various other things. And that sort of is going to get in the way now, but now that we've seen it and we know what it does, we can get rid of that and send that next one down by one. So I will do the response arbitrary name, response equals request.get, and my home page, just as the API told us we could. And you'll notice that the asterisk there takes a moment because it actually went out to the internet and fetched that page, and we're sitting on top of a response object. And if I send this down by one, oh, there's that help again. Let's see what the API, because the response object is an instance of this. So that is itself an object that you can type help on and see what you can do. Now there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff in here, and as you can see, this is all designed by a human. Someone wrote this. There's updating that needs to be done, and usually the important stuff is in there, like, oh, here's text and here's OK. But I definitely know stuff is missing here. But at any rate, we know that we're sitting on top of a .text and a .ok method. So we'll get rid of that, send this guy down by one, and let's take a look at what response.text gives us. It's the text of this. Well, much like what you would expect, a solid, dense block of text, which is the rough equivalent of the view source if you were to have visited this same page. And then after it loads, just go view page source. What you're seeing in here, although it's showing your line returns and such, is pretty much the equivalent of what you're seeing down here. So you're sitting on top of response.text, But you're also sitting on top of, we saw response.ok. What is that? Oh, it evaluates to true. So you can always check response.ok before you go to response.text. But OK being true, there's a code in there, like a response code. But yet when we looked at the help on the response object, it's unless it's one of these internals, I'm skipping the internals as I glance. It is not actually shown here as one of your options. So what do? We'll get rid of this one, send that down. Well, you can actually look inside of it with the dir command instead of the help command. And there's all the internals, and there's all the publicly accessible methods. And sometimes it's a little tricky to look at this. So all internals or privates begin with underscore. There's internals, there's private. You're not supposed to use those that begin with an underscore. So this is a list just like any other list. So you have X for X in notation, just like you would anywhere else, list comprehensions. If we only want the public ones, so we can look at X and we can look at the first character of X and say not equal to underscore. And this will just be the list of the ones that we easily can use inside the response object. Oh, well, this looks much more interesting. Hey, there's something called status code, as is, let's see, cookies. That's an interesting one. Let's see, headers, cookies, and status code. That's the hardest to type since it's 2 words with an underscore. So I'll take that one and send this down. Oh, that was that demonstration. I already did that. And so there's response.status code. We're sitting on top of it. If this were response.text, it would be that big blob of text. But response.status code gives us that 200. Headers shows us the headers, which is a dictionary object itself, a vary colon that, transfer encoding colon that, and etc. But if you wanted to reach just right in for the cookie stuff, which is a sub thing of the headers, so you just put cookies. And so that's how you can learn more about what's available as methods of an object you're sitting on top of through a little bit of exploration and going beyond just the help command, because the dir command really does tell you more and filtering out stuff that you're not supposed to use. Okay, so let's put that back to OK. True. We'll send this down. The next one. Okay. Well, this now gets into regular expressions, because with that response.text, I guess response.text is what I want to keep there, we are in need of finding stuff in there. And that gets us back to the points about this tutorial video. So are you using Python regular expressions? We're going to use regular expressions right now just because they're so powerful in their core foundational knowledge of what you need to do in so many programming languages. A lot of people hate regular expressions, but it's because they haven't simplified it to the simplest point in their mind. It gives you tremendous power. Pattern matching is a valid way to parse HTML no matter what anybody tells you. And the other alternatives are the XML parsers, and this tutorial could have been about the XML parsers and XPath and stuff, but it would have been a much more complicated tutorial, more complicated than using regex. So all you need to remember about regex, okay, because we covered this other stuff, help and dir, and what underscores mean, so we talked about this. What we're interested in now is the core things you need to remember when you're using regular expression. In this use case, I need find all. That's the piece of information you need to be explicitly told, because the RE object has so many methods to it that it's difficult to know that for all this kind of SEO investigation work, find all is your most powerful method to use. And then all you have to remember is pattern, string, and flags. Those three words, pattern, string, and flags, because of re.findAll, you can say pattern equals something, string equals something, and flags equals something, and then you will no longer need to remember the order sensitivity of pattern versus string. That's one of the most difficult things about regular expression matching. Anyway, positional arguments, positional locations. So I'm going to get rid of this one. We don't need to see the internals of that anymore. And so if we do a help on re.findAll, we'll get that API. And as you can see, pattern, string, and flags. Okay. Now you could enter it in order, sensitive way. You put the pattern first, you put the string first, and you put the flags third, and it would work. But I am going to advocate using the words pattern equals, string equals, and flags equal. And in that way, you will never need to remember what order they come in. So you put in an arbitrary word, matches. You'll find that on the internet a lot. The name of your module, .findAll, and then pattern equals the pattern you're looking for. String equals the string you're searching, which, as you remember, is that giant blob up there. That actually is response.txt. So we're searching inside of that as our string. And we're setting two flags. This is one of the downsides of regular expressions under Python. There's re.m and re.I, which tells it look across multiple line returns and ignore case, respectively. So this is case-insensitive multi-line matching. And if I execute that, we're sitting on top of a object called matches, which we can start to investigate the same exact way as we investigated other objects. So we can just type it in and see it's pointy bracket. Well, it's not even pointy bracket notation. It is a list. So matches was set to a list data type. So there's no invoking methods or anything. It's just looking at it. And that's every mic that occurred on the page. And while that's nice, it's not exactly reaching for the title tag. So I thought I would show you how to get the title tag, edit that one out, edit this one in, and you see the pattern. I have raw. It's not really necessary that R there because there's no characters in here that can be misinterpreted. But if you're using backslashes that have special notations, you would have to put the R in front of there for a raw string. But our pattern is looking for the title tag, looking for the closed title tag, and then looking for, in regular expression notation, any character, any number of times. That's what .star equals, any character, any number of times. And so it's essentially like the search above, but for the title tag. And now, when we execute it, there it is. It's a one-item list. Now, if we were to want to update this spreadsheet here and say for that home page, our title tag is such and such, what we don't want is the title tag as part of the match. And Python regex, I didn't mention some of the bad things, which is having to define default flags for case insensitive and multi-line. One of the good sides is what comes back in your match is either the whole thing if you're not using any parentheses for grouping, or if you are using parentheses for grouping, each one creates its own matching subset. So that essentially means leave out title from what's returned as the match. So we'll re-execute that now with just the parentheses around .star, and we'll execute that. And there you have it. This is an object. If we were to actually look inside at the first element of that list, there is the exact value that we could turn around and stick into here. And that sets the stage for doing exactly that in the next video. So that was my little tutorial on the requests package, very popular external package that gets installed with Anaconda, but if not, it's just pip install requests, and the RE, or regular expression package, which is part of the Python core library that lots of people get confused on. But if you just remember, for getting all matches, you're using re.findAll, and then you feed it 3 parameters: the pattern, using regular expression pattern matching, and a string, which is what you're searching against, and the flags re.M, pipe re.I for multi-line case insensitive. You basically know everything you need to know to do this kind of stuff. Matches equals re.findAll, pattern equals pattern, string equals string, flags equal flags, and you get a matches object back, which could have 0 or more matches. You know, if we were to look for something like that. Here, because there's nothing in there, if we were to look at just matches itself, empty. And if we were to print, let's see, check the truth of that, and empty evaluates as, oh, not boot, but bool. And empty evaluates as false. So you can always just check the truthiness of your matching object before you start reaching in for an index. You could also check its length. So there you have it, my tutorial on Python requests package and regular expressions, a gentle introduction and the prerequisite knowledge for what's necessary for the next step, which is going to be returning values from SEO Notebook here when this stuff is executed to end up in locations like this. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.